This isn't just any story, it's a true Wild West tale that still echoes across the dusty plains. A cowboy set out to collect a simple debt, but what he found there would change his life forever. An abandoned ranch, the smell of blood, broken gates, and an Apache woman running for her life. From that moment, fate grabbed him by the hand and led him into a story filled with danger, honor, and an unexpected destiny. Subscribe, share, and comment. Let's get started this story. The sun sagged low over the jagged ridges as Luke Mercer guided his chestnut horse across the dusty trail, the fading light staining the horizon in shades of gold and fire. He wasn't riding for glory or trouble. He had only come to collect a simple debt from Clive Harmon, a rancher known for excuses longer than fence lines. Luke expected a conversation, maybe an argument, but nothing more. Yet something in the wind felt wrong, a stillness too sharp, a silence too complete. In the Wild West, silence was rarely harmless. Luke's instincts whispered of danger waiting ahead. As he neared the Harmon property, unease turned into alarm. Smoke curled upward in thin, wavering threads, the kind that didn't come from breakfast pans or branding fires. Luke slowed his horse, eyes scanning the ranch with the precision of a man who had walked close to death before. The corral gate splintered under its hinges. A wagon lay overturned, one wheel shattered into jagged pieces. And nearer still, 3 bodies lay sprawled across the dirt, 2 ranch hands and Clive himself. Bullet holes and Apache arrows stood like accusations in the wood. Luke jumped from his horse, boots hitting the soil with a weight that matched the heaviness settling in his chest. He crouched near Clive, noticing the man's last grip tightened around a torn scrap of fabric, soft, blue, feminine. Someone had fought. Someone had been taken. Luke scanned the scene again, now understanding the violence differently. This wasn't a robbery. It was a search, a retrieval, maybe even a rescue. But if Clive Harmon had stolen something, or someone, that wasn't his, the cost had come back on him with deadly precision. Tracks stretched behind the ranch, scattered footprints, hoofprints, and one distinctive trail, the lighter, desperate steps of a woman running for freedom. Luke's jaw flexed as he followed the path. He hadn't come here to play hero. He hadn't asked for a fight. But a woman fleeing for her life was something he couldn't turn away from. He mounted his horse and pressed forward into the growing dusk, where the canyon shadows swallowed the trail like a secret. Coyotes howled from distant ridges, their cries blending with the desert wind in an unsettling chorus. Hours passed before he heard it, a soft sound carried between the canyon walls, too fragile to belong to an animal. Luke dismounted, hand resting lightly near his holster as he followed the faint noise. Behind a wide boulder half hidden in a shallow alcove, a woman crouched with her arms around herself. Her dark hair fell in wild waves over her shoulders, her dress torn and dusty, her eyes sharp with both fear and defiance. An Apache woman. She clutched a stone, ready to strike if he stepped closer. Luke lifted his hands gently, speaking in a calm, steady voice. Her breath wavered as she studied him, trying to decide if he was another captor or a rare source of safety. When he didn't move, she whispered a single trembling word in Apache. Nanton. Luke frowned, trying to piece together what she meant. She repeated it, pointing toward the canyon ridge. Luke realized she was telling him that her people, warriors, were close, or searching, or coming. She trembled but sat proudly, refusing to look broken despite her exhaustion. Luke saw bruises on her wrists, harsh signs that whoever had taken her had done so by force, not by right. He slowly offered food from his saddlebag. The woman hesitated, then reached for it with cautious fingers, eating quickly yet gracefully. Luke handed her his canteen, and she drank with the desperation of someone who had been denied water for far too long. When she spoke again, mixing broken English with Apache, he listened carefully. Her name was Yana. She had been taken by Clive Harmon weeks earlier, captured, hidden, used as leverage. She had tried to escape tonight, just as Luke arrived. The Apache attack wasn't a raid for plunder, but a mission to retrieve her. Luke felt a cold anger simmer beneath his calm exterior. Clive Harmon had committed a crime far worse than unpaid debt. He had taken a woman who belonged to no man, and now Luke understood why the ranch had been torn apart by vengeance. Before he could speak, Yana stiffened. She pointed toward the mouth of the canyon, urgency sharpening her expression. Riders were approaching, 6 men, shadows against the dying twilight. Luke moved instinctively in front of her, shielding her as the riders emerged into clear view, guns at their sides, their leader smirking with cruel certainty. The man spat tobacco onto the dirt and called out that they were hunting a runaway Apache woman. He demanded Luke step aside. Luke didn't move. His voice remained steady, cold. "She isn't yours." The leader sneered, claiming she was worth money. That meant she belonged to whoever could take her. Luke's eyes hardened. "She is under my protection now." A tense silence followed, one that cracked into violence as the leader raised his hand. Luke drew first, his revolver roaring in the narrow canyon. Two men fell instantly, while the others scrambled to fire back. Luke grabbed Ayana's hand. "Ride, now." She climbed behind him as he kicked the horse into a full sprint, bullets slicing the air around them. They raced through the canyon, dust rising behind them like mist. Luke leaned forward, shielding her as they escaped the rider's range. Minutes later, silence returned, broken only by their ragged breaths and the pounding heartbeat of the horse. They kept riding until night fell completely, reaching a hidden spring Luke knew from years exploring the land. Only then did they stop, trembling but alive, the firelight flickering between them like a fragile promise of safety. The fire crackled softly under the blanket of stars as Luke sat across from Ayana, his back pressed against a warm rock, revolver within reach, but hands resting calmly on his knees. Ayana watched the flames with distant eyes, her fingers tracing the dust on her skirt, as if remembering every mile she had been dragged, every moment stolen from her. Luke didn't speak. He knew silence was sometimes kinder than questions. After a long pause, she finally looked at him, not with fear, but with a fragile kind of trust. She touched her chest lightly, then pointed toward him, a gesture he slowly understood as gratitude. Luke nodded, the gesture warming him more than the fire, but the night was not finished testing them. The distant sound of coyotes faded into a deeper quiet, one that told Luke the land was holding its breath. He stood, watching the ridge with narrowed eyes. Ayana followed his gaze, her expression tightening. She whispered a word in Apache, "Riders." Luke could not yet see them, but he knew she was right. Danger flowed through the desert like cold wind before a storm. Someone was still hunting them, unwilling to lose the prize they believed she was. Minutes later, silhouettes appeared against the moonlit ridge, not 6 men, not ranch hands, but warriors on horseback, Apache warriors. Their bodies were painted in earth colors, long hair braided with feathers and beads. Their presence was powerful, silent, unyielding. Ayana stood, shoulders straight, no longer the trembling woman Luke had found in the canyon, but a daughter of her people reclaiming her strength. The leader dismounted and approached, spear in hand, eyes sharp as flint. He spoke to Ayana first, his voice low yet intense, asking if she had been harmed, if she had been dishonored, if Luke had forced her in any way. Ayana stepped forward without hesitation and shook her head firmly. She spoke in rapid Apache, her voice steady as she explained everything, her capture, her escape, the attack on the ranch, and how Luke had risked his life to protect her. The leader's expression shifted as he listened, anger melting into deep respect. When his gaze turned to Luke, it held neither hostility nor warmth, only the weight of a man measuring another's soul. Luke didn't flinch. He met the warrior's eyes, with the same calm resolve he had shown since he arrived on this path of accidental destiny. The Apache leader circled him slowly, assessing the truth in Ayana's words through the quiet dignity in Luke's posture. After a long moment, he placed a hand on Luke's shoulder, not lightly, not as a friend, but as a man acknowledging another man's honor. The warriors lowered their weapons. Ayana turned to Luke, her eyes shimmering with something far deeper than gratitude. She explained that her people had offered her the choice to return with them, to resume her life, to leave the chaos behind. But she had refused. In her culture, a woman could choose her partner freely, not through force or trade, but through heart and spirit. Luke's breath caught, though his expression remained composed. Ayana stepped closer, so close he could see the reflection of the firelight dancing in her eyes. She touched his chest softly, her fingers lingering for a heartbeat before she whispered in English, "I choose you." The words struck him harder than any bullet. He had not expected this. He had come for a debt, stumbled into a rescue, and fought for the life of a woman he barely knew. But everything in him told him that her choice was not made from confusion or desperation. It was made with full clarity, the kind only a soul forged by hardship could have. The Apache leader nodded solemnly, acknowledging her decision. Ayana's people would not challenge a choice made from the heart. They would not take her by force. The warriors mounted their horses again, but before leaving, the leader handed Luke a carved wooden token, a symbol of respect and acceptance among the Apache. It was rare, precious, and never given lightly. Luke bowed his head slightly in thanks. The warriors rode off into the darkness, their silhouettes fading into the desert like ghosts returning to the earth. Luke and Iana remained by the fire. The night felt quieter, safer, almost sacred. Iana stepped closer to Luke, her voice gentle but certain. "When the morning comes, we go together." Luke looked at her, searching for doubt but found none. She wasn't asking for protection. She was offering partnership, a life built not from rescue but from choice. He reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face, his touch careful, almost reverent. Then he gave a simple nod that held the weight of a promise. They would ride together at dawn. And when dawn finally broke across the desert, painting the sky in gold and rose, Luke saddled his horse and helped Iana up behind him. She wrapped her arms lightly around his waist, not out of fear but belonging. As they rode out of the canyon and onto open land, Luke felt the world shift beneath him. The debt he had come to collect had brought him something far beyond money. It had led him to a woman who had chosen him not because she was saved, but because she saw in him a partner worthy of standing beside her. They rode toward a future neither had expected, but both were willing to build. The Wild West was a land of danger, dust, and hard lessons, but sometimes it was also the birthplace of union, respect, and love found in the most unlikely way. Luke didn't look back. He had no reason to. Everything that mattered rode with him, holding on gently, trusting him completely. And together they disappeared into the endless horizon, where every trail led to a new beginning.